I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, February the 20th, where we've got changes coming at CBP. And if you don't know what CBP is, it's Consolidated Beef Producers, and those of you that have watched me for a while know that I really support CBP and everything that they're trying to do, and that they do in a big way. They cooperatively market fed cattle, about 700,000 of them a year, in an attempt to get leverage to help their members get a better price for their cattle. And they're about the only big time negotiated cash sellers left in the industry, and I support them. Those of you that are struggling trying to sell your cattle on the negotiated cash market, I think that you should get in touch with them, and I don't care where you're at in the country. They've got people there, they've got other people selling with them, and they've got a way to try to help get a better price for your cattle through volume. And anyway, not that just because they're based in my hometown of Canyon, Texas, but that doesn't hurt anything. But there's big changes coming up at CBP. And all of these people that I'm going to mention with their new titles are friends of mine, and they're all very capable individuals, and I don't think we've lost a step at all with CBP. It's just going to be some changes. But Bruce Cobb, which was the general manager and has been for a long time, Bruce Cobb, very active in the community there in Canyon, and he has taken a position with Certified Angus Beef as their executive vice president of production. So he's going to be leaving Consolidated Beef Producers. And Casey Bradshaw, a really good guy there, he was formerly the director of marketing, and now he's moved up and going to be the new president and general manager of Consolidated Beef Producers. I think that's a good move there, and it definitely will not miss a step. He has got contacts and relationships that will only continue to build CBP. Taking his place is going to be Chad Brown, that's been with him for quite a while, director of marketing. And Heather Peoples has moved up and is now going to be vice president of administrative operations. So I don't think we've lost a step at all with them. I continue to support them. They're still fighting and gaining ground in a lot of areas, getting more people to join in with them, become members, and sell their cattle. Give them your show list. Let them market your cattle. I know it's kind of a status deal to try to sell your cattle and see how good you can do, but if you're losing ground, it's not a good deal. And if you can get together and start being part of the solution instead of part of the problem, and get some more leverage in this market, it's just better for everybody. But let's look at what's going on in the markets here mid to late week. Look at your board for Wednesday, February live cattle futures, down 12 cents, but showed some strength at times during the day at 121.30, which is a premium to what our cash fat cattle market is, and we're getting here to maturity, so we're running a negative basis. But April was up 20 cents at 120.80. March feeder cattle up pretty good, up 147 at 140.77, and it just has to keep up with cash. And that's what it's doing, but not a lot of cattle moving right now. We're over our big calf run. Our receipts are starting to dwindle a little bit. There's not going to be a big run of traditional wheat grazing cattle coming off in March. So we're starting to loosen up some vacancy in these feedlots, and they're starting to actually get hungry for numbers because they got to keep those pens filled up and keep things moving through the system. April feeder cattle contracts up $1.25 at 143.02. We did have fat cattle trade on Wednesday. We gained some ground. A lot of people felt like we could have gained more ground, but the way it's happened is we gained $1 in the Southern Plains at 120, and that's the market in the Southern Plains. Traded quite a few cattle there, maybe as many as 8,000 head in Kansas, and maybe as many as 4,000 in Texas, which would be a huge movement negotiated cash in Texas. That's pretty healthy for the way things are in Texas. But 120, that's a buck higher, but the North continues to be quiet. Even in Iowa, where we normally see some trades take place early on in the week, they've been very, very quiet. They think they can gain more ground than that. We've got some of these packers coming in wanting some of these better quality cattle, some of these cattle that were fed for quality and not so much for efficiency, but they're still holding out, hoping they can gain $2 or $3 dressed, which would be great, get us back where we were here 2 or 3 weeks ago. Box beef cutout values continue to drift, and it's the time of the year for that, but we're going to get shortly into the time where your end users start putting more orders in, getting ready for grilling season, because spring is coming. Might be cold where you're at, but it's coming. Choice cuts on Wednesday afternoon, 205.57, down 56 cents on your choice, and select cuts 201.76, down $1.97, starting to spread that choice select spread out a little bit more, almost $4 at $3.81. Talk about your feeder cattle markets. Real-time index from DV Auction on your 7 to 900 pound steers up through the middle 12 states and all the markets that we cover with DV Auction, 141.60. That's up 55 cents, and we've gained ground every day this week so far as these buyers are getting pretty aggressive for cattle, not just stockers, but especially on stockers, but also on the feeder cattle. We saw them gain more ground than the calves did in some places. Your big sales here middle of the week, OKC West, El Reno, Oklahoma, 9,700 head for the 2-day sale, and that's a pretty big run. But a lot of guys just haven't really liked the market. But they saw that the prices were higher early in the week on some big high volume sales, and they filled the barn up there in El Reno. Look at your feeder steers, they were $1 to $5 higher. Feeder heifers were $2 to $6 higher. If you remember on Tuesday, your calves sold $4 to $6 higher. They did note there were some cattle starting to come off wheat. And when I say there's not going to be a big wheat run, yeah, there's cattle out there on the wheat, but it's just not stocked as heavily as we've seen it in some years because the wheat played out pretty fast. It looked good early, but once you put cattle on it, they grazed it off, and we never really saw any growth during the hard winter months. But now we've seen some moisture, and we are going to see some pretty decent graze out wheat. But your traditional grazing season there of the wheat, we're starting to see some early pulls from there, and there were some wheat cattle in El Reno. Look at this individual quote from El Reno. This is on some heavier cattle that have been really hard to sell the last couple of weeks, but the Eubanks steers there, 115 head and 913 pound steers bring 135. And it had been kind of hard pressed to get that for some steers weighing maybe 100 pounds less a week ago. Winter livestock, Dodge City, Kansas, 3,600 head, good run for them. Feeder steers, $3 to $5 higher. Feeder heifers, $2 to $4 higher. Spots from $6 to $9 higher. And didn't have a very good run of calves. Like 70% of your cattle were all weighing over 6, but your lighter calves, steer calves, steady to $2 higher. Heifer calves maybe a pinch lower as they saw gains last week, and not a really good comparison there. But look at an individual quote out of Dodge City. 62 head of 567 pound stocker steers there at 183. Did note they were thinner flesh kind of steers, but that's a heck of a price there in south central Kansas. You look at Torrington, Wyoming, Torrington livestock markets, 3,800 head there. Awful good sale in Torrington. You remember they saw the big gains on their light calves last week. They were sharply higher last week. Well, this week you saw bigger gains on your heavier feeder type calves. Steer calves weighing over 6.5, those kind that need to go right on feed, $3 to $8 higher. Heifer calves weighing over 6.5, $2 higher. Your lighter calves were kind of a lighter test there because we saw some big gains there a week ago. But you look at a big quote out of Torrington, 165 head, 722 pound steers in Torrington, 162. Want to talk about a couple of markets that we continue to add new markets that we're reporting on through DV Auction, through Cattle Market Central with our automated market reporting service. It doesn't cost you guys a thing. It gives you a lot more promotion on your sales. I'm going to talk about them. They're going to be on our National Beef Wire TV screen. and we encourage more sales to join with us, but we're adding new sales all the time. You know, I did a talk here earlier at Oakley, Kansas earlier in the week. Kyle Hemmert there, he decided to join in, so we're going to be drawing the market from there automatically. He doesn't have a federal state market reporter, but we're going to get that market out from his market there at Oakley Livestock Commission. Look at 90 head of 644-pound steers in Oakley, Kansas at 166.50. Another market we're going to be adding, and this is the first dry stone market, the clerk system that we've added to our automated market reporting there. It's out of Cherokee Livestock Sales. Jared Herman's sale there got a good sale, and then we're starting to suck. We got some information from them this week. He had a load of 804-pound steers, Cherokee, Oklahoma at 137.50. Creston, Iowa up there, they've got that thing going good again. 60 head of 720-pound steers in Creston, America at 155.75. Bassett had a sale, guys. Got to talk about them. Bassett, Nebraska, 3,500 head plus, somewhere between there and 4,000 head. Look at this automated market report. This is kind of what it looks like. Doesn't cost a thing. You don't have to do anything. We suck it right out of the clouds, guys, and it's all the cattle. It's not picking and choosing. We didn't miss any of them. They're all in there. If you look at the best tested weights, 637 head of 5-weight steers, average 550 pounds at 182.64. 793 head of the 6-weight steers, average 638 with an average price of 172.30. Look how wide the steer heifer spread is, 20 to 25 bucks. But your 632 head of the 5-weight heifers, average 552 at 162.50. And 547 head of the 6-weight heifers, average 653 pounds with a weighted average price of 148.67. That's your feeder flash for Thursday. Flash for Tuesday.